Welcome to the Mind Meets Medicine podcast, where we believe the future of healthcare is mind meeting medicine. Hi, I'm Kayla, a licensed therapist and founder of a mental health care clinic.
And I'm Dr. Sir, a board-certified psychiatrist.
Together, we will join the fields of medicine and psychology to provide education, elevate guest perspectives, and foster curious, informed conversations.
Welcome back to Mind Meets Medicine. Today, we have someone very, very special.
We do.
Dear friend, licensed psychologist, best-selling author, private practice in the Silicon Valley area. You have your own podcast, over 300 episodes now. I bring to you
Drum roll.
Dr. Adam Dorsay.
Sir, Kayla, I am so stoked to be with both of you.
This is very exciting that you're here.
Yeah.
I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, we have like an hour of footage of just chatting before we even actually started the episode.
Green room conversation was a 10. Let's just say the two of you are like more fun than a toy store.
This is like everything that a therapist and a doctor wants to actually do with their time is just hang out and talk, be nerdy and talk about all the things that we don't have time regularly in our day-to-day lives to talk about. So,
And I think that's part of the reason we got into it.
Yeah.
We're curious. We like people. And we're not out here just pathologizing. So many people, when I meet people at a party, will say, "Oh, are you going to, quote, psychoanalyze me?" And I'm just like, hell no. I just want to hang out and get to know you and see if there's a connection here. Are we friendable?
Yeah. Well, I think that's like part of what you exude is just this natural inquisitiveness and liking people, you know? You see the best in people.
Oh, thanks.
And what I'm excited about today is on your show, you interview so many people. I'm excited to get a little bit more understanding, insight into who you are and why you do what you do, and how that also may be a parallel for community and connection.
Beautiful. I love to explore that with you.
But yeah, who are you?
All right. So I am a father of two boys. I'm a happily married man. Actually, 23 years ago today, my wife and I had a public ceremony. Our private ceremony was a month prior. And so I'm a very happily married man. She actually is also a psychologist. She preceded me in becoming a psychologist. And a very important factor in our relationship is she's been such a good champion. Like, we'd have dinner conversations and she'd be telling me about her day, and I'd be hearing about the day that I was supposed to have, but I didn't have at the time because I was in the corporate sphere. And it didn't feel nearly as meaningful. And she had my back when it came time for me to earn my doctorate at a very, let's just say, not super opportune moment in life. I already had a house, I had a mortgage, I had a child. It wasn't standard. And she had my back. She said she never once gave me anything but wind and sunshine at my back. So a big part of who I am is actually influenced by who I chose to marry. I am also a cinephile. I love movies. I'm absolutely nuts for music, particularly this guy from Italy named Giovanotti, who nobody knows out here, and I wish they would. If I could promote anybody, it would be him. And if I could do anything with my time besides being a psychologist and all the other things, probably, like many people, I love traveling. There's nothing more exciting. I've lived in a few countries. I lived in Japan for nearly 3 years. I've lived in Spain for a period of time. And so if I could, I would spend 3 months in a country 2 to 3 times a year just to really get to know that place.
Well, we ask every guest when they come in, what's on your mind lately? And it could be personal, it could be clinical, and it could be random. And we never know coming in what's on somebody's mind. And so we like to ask you to open. What's on your mind?
I'm a data geek, and I love learning new things. Part of being a psychologist for me is exposure to amazing ideas. There are two that I want to share with you that have blown my mind recently. The first one came from Dr. James Cordova. He's a distinguished psychologist in Clark University, and he wrote a book on mindfulness and intimacy. And I asked him to define intimacy. So many people use it incorrectly when they use it euphemistically when they're talking about sex. But you could be sexual and not intimate, and you can be intimate and not sexual. And his definition was so good. Intimacy is vulnerability met well. Think about the times that you said something that was vulnerable and it wasn't met well. Somebody rolled their eyes and said, oh my God, that's TMI, or whatever they might say that might shame you. But one of the reasons that I believe that there's glue between the three of us is we can share our vulnerability and it will be met well. That's thing one. Thing two, the science of luck. I'm not going to share everything, but I'm going to share one data point, two actually. Turns out there's not much we can do scientifically to improve our luck passively. A lot of us just want passive luck, but there are things that we can do actively that will improve our luck, one of which is increasing our social circle. It turns out that there is a correlation between how many people you know and how lucky you become. In both of our relationships, in terms of Sir and Kayla, I met you both because I hustled for it. In your case, a podcaster introduced me to you and I heard about you and I followed up. I was like, I want to know this person. Does it work every time? Of course not. But I got lucky. You and I had a lunch and I was just like, this is amazing. And you Kayla, I met you on a Wednesday night at some social gathering for other therapists, and we met and we hit it off, and lo and behold, I got lucky. And the three of us will probably introduce each other to other ideas, and it will seem like luck. There'll be portals to other great things. And so I find that fascinating.
I think there's something about this that is so true, that and it's anecdotal, but it's hard to pinpoint. And my dad used to say this: good things happen when you leave the office. Just getting out into the world. But if you do it without any self-fulfilling intention, it's like I'm genuinely just wanting to make a connection, but not looking at it through like a lens of what you're going to get out of the other person, but looking at it as this altruistic, like really looking for connection. And I think that's like a little, that really speaks to your...
The book.
It's a nice lead in.
Yeah.
Great lead in. And it was interesting. The genesis of this book was after nearly 20,000 hours of being a therapist, this word kept showing up: connection. And it's nebulous. What does that mean? Does it mean just interpersonal connection? And this was the idea that just took a hold of me and seized me. And I knew I had no choice but to invest my heartbeats and write this book. It took about 20 months. But it turns out there are 4 ways we humans connect that I was able to identify. And I've had that checked by countless peers who have signed off on this book. And we first, if you can imagine a kind of a target, the bullseye is we connect with ourselves first. That impacts all of the other connections that we have. If we're not well connected with ourselves, I mean, how well do we connect with others if we have a rock in our shoe? If we're not connected with ourselves, it's like we're walking around with a rock in our shoe. Some RAM space allocation will be towards that rock in our shoe, and it will impair our ability to really connect well with others. So we want to connect with ourselves, know who we are, know what rejuvenates us, know what really falls in our geek zone, not apologizing for these so-called, things. What do they call it? Guilty pleasures. I say that in the book, I even say there's no such thing as a guilty pleasure as long as it's not hurting anyone or yourself. There's just pleasure. And I remember there was a period of time, and thankfully now is not that time, when my love for George Michael was considered right. It usually gets a little bit of a laugh, but I couldn't share that. I'd have to listen to him with like the windows rolled up in my car, lest somebody, saw me, geeking out to like a teeny bopper musician. So absolutely adore him. Not a guilty pleasure, just a pleasure. The second ring is how we connect with others. Others include our significant others, our children, our friends, and our pets for pet lovers. We don't nearly need to explain that to pet lovers. To people who don't love pets, they might not get it, but I actually consider pets to be in the second realm, and having worked at Humane Society as a volunteer in their pet loss program where I saw more tears, and anyone who's lost a pet knows what I'm talking about. So that's tier 2. Tier 3 is how we connect with the world. The world includes our work, our communities. It could be art. It could be our travels. This is the world. And the fourth is something bigger, something greater. For some people, they engage in traditional religious practices. That's something greater. For the most dogmatic atheist, they might still go to a place like the Grand Canyon and experience awe. And awe has been shown, it's been put under the microscope, and we've found that awe brings out all kinds of benefits neurochemically that resemble psilocybin, which is the psychoactive component of magic mushrooms, just without having to take any form of external intervention. We just experience it when we experience it. So awe is something that we can microdose daily. My colleague, Dr. Michael Amster, talks about microdosing awe. We can just even look at pancakes, just look at the formation of this liquid turning into something solid. That's kind of cool if you actually think about it. And some people might say, oh man, you tripped too hard, or you're really easily impressed. I remember somebody telling me I was easily impressed, and I said, no, I'm not. I have a high threshold for appreciation.
Yeah.
Boom, I reclaimed it. So I really would recommend that everybody have a higher threshold for appreciation of things. Life is short. Let's appreciate stuff.
When you think about the tiers, is it, I sometimes try to visualize or imagine when communicating and working with people. I'm trying to imagine, how do you see the tiers taking shape when you're communicating this to someone, if there is a shape?
Sure. So I'm communicating with you right now. So I'm involving both connecting to myself so that I can be rooted in what I'm about to say, but I'm also engaging in this lovely experience of mirror neurons. Just you and I are having just this mind meld. Dan Siegel refers to it as interpersonal neurobiology, meaning that your neurochemicals and my neurochemicals are interacting, and we're benefiting. And so I do see it that way. And sometimes a third element will come out because we can also be talking about work. So I'm connecting with myself and the world. And sometimes, if I'm really, really able to go there, I can experience awe just with another human being, being like, whoa, that is so cool. Like, I just saw Kayla do an impression of Kristen Wiig that was so spot on that I thought I was watching Kristen Wiig. And she came into the room, and what's that?
I said cosign.
Cosign, nice. Yeah. And for sure. So I experienced all four in that moment as well. It's just a great feel-good thing. And let's face it, hurt people, and people who are feeling good are far more likely to let somebody cut in front of them in line, and they'll be like, you know what, I'm good. I'm having a good day. This person just cut in front of me at Walgreens. It's fine.
This, as you're describing it, I have this visualization of like circles as it's going out, this like ripple effect.
That's kind of what I was thinking too.
As it's like, but it's like a beat. It's like it goes. They go between all of them. They all matter equally, and yet they play off of each other, right? And so it's hard to have one without the other. 3. And the completeness of the 4 is so important to kind of getting to this self-actualized place. And we get this perspective as clinicians or therapists where we see when people don't have fullness in one of the buckets, you know? Or many of them.
Well, yeah. I'm loving that. No one has ever said that to me before.
Oh.
And I love imagining it feels very vital, doesn't it? And
It's
fluid.
like a beat.
And
You know how you see like sound waves
That's
and
exactly what I was thinking of.
yeah, I'm almost thinking of those like old computer screensavers. You know, they have that,
Oh, yeah.
you know, they like play off of each other and there's this movement to it. But at its core, the connection with the self is like the quality of the ripple outward.
I love that. And I think that is, in some ways, a symbol of life. Life is a perpetual expansion and contraction and expansion and contraction throughout life. And then, of course, if you think about it from a more meta, as I was told that the Four Seasons by Vivaldi was to represent the seasons of a person's life. Spring, it starts and there's an expansion. Summer, things expand further. Things start to contract around fall and contract further as it gets colder in winter. And as that person dies, there's an occlusion. So I like that idea. There's something very meta about that image that you just provided.
It's so simple. These 4 ways of connection, 4 types of connection, and yet it's everything.
Well, what's so funny is my most recent TEDx talk was called "Connection is Everything," and that was considered.
I did not know that.
I was considering calling this book.
I was there
Connection.
for that one, right?
You were there for that one.
Okay.
I hope you were there because you were
I was
there.
there,
And if you
yes.
weren't there when you were there,
Sir was
then
in
I
the back
wasn't there
sleeping.
either.
Sir fell asleep for that part.
He's like, you know what? Not so
I was
great.
in line.
I'm
was,
dissociating.
Like, before the opening. Yeah.
I'm out.
That was
And
beautiful.
but connection is everything. Think about it. If there was a single currency, we talk about love a lot, but I would say connection is even more primary. I think that on our deathbeds, when we look back, people say no one ever thought about work on their deathbeds and how they wish they had another day of the office. But I would say that people think about their connection versus their non-connection. Yeah. And a lot of people talk about risks taken versus risks not taken on their deathbed. But that also comes from a place of connection or love left on the table. That's a big regret. Ooh.
Dan Pink.
Big time, right? I love me some Dan Pink, who actually blurbed this book, which was so nice of him. Glad you brought him up. I love me some Dan Pink. Oh, boy. He's so brilliant.
For anybody who doesn't know, he does research on regret. And what the deathbed conversation, I think this is such a, it's a little oversimplified. What do people think about, in the kind of totality of somebody's life as they're looking at all of the years lived? What does it make up of, right? And connection
I would say it's the antidote. I'd say it's the best insurance policy that you're going to be living.
Put that on a bumper sticker.
I think it's the best insurance policy that you're going to be living a life that is meaningful. And, Viktor Frankl, of course, was one of the people who helped get that message out. Simply by changing the name of his book, by the way. The original title was something like From Death Camp to Meaning, and then he changed it Man's Search for Meaning, and I think that was a good move because it made it more approachable. And meanwhile, it's a beloved book, and one of my heroes on this planet who's blessed my podcast a couple times, Michael Meade, says, "We are not Homo sapiens, we are Homo symbolicus. We are beings that chase meaning." And connection, I would say, is really a precursor. Like if you listen to music and it's meaningful, there's a connection. You know it. And similarly, when I meet somebody like either of you, I know it. There's a connection there. I don't need somebody to explain. You really should like this person. Like that. There's no. And if that goes in, and you and I, in therapy speak, shoulds are irrational and not reality based. But if we do like something, like I should like certain musicians, and I'm not going to hate on anybody, but I don't.
You've heard that saying.
Oh, tell me.
Stop shitting all over yourself. It's a good one.
Stop
We
shitting.
have to bleep that one out.
Bleep it out.
I think it should stay in.
Stay in. Sarah's like, we got to keep this clean.
The one thing that I'm feeling from your description of the 4 types, the 4 tiers, in the way that you communicated the vision, or even the experience of today, was, I think when you were originally describing it, I was thinking about them as like separate domains with these boundaries. And then the way you described it was one moment can span across them. And there's just something amazing about the transportive element of connection. I'm feeling this way, I'm in this place, and then the connection happens in one domain or in multiple, and now I'm in a new place. And I think that when I'm working with someone, especially on the depressive side, there's such a stuckness and an inability to be transported out of the depressed position. And at least anecdotally, it's felt like it's been missing so many elements of this connection that you described and that you've looked into.
You got it perfectly. And I would even say that there is very simple math involved, and that each of these connection tiers or types are multipliers for the next. Let's imagine you're at a concert and you're with your spouse, and there's a massive fight that transpires. And the earworm that goes through your head, kind of like it's a small world, instead is we're in a fight, we're in a bad place. It's rather jittery. And then suddenly the concert starts. How much presence will you have for the concert? Maybe you're able to compartmentalize, but for sure, some of that experience will impair your ability to be connected. I'm not saying that life shouldn't happen when we're at a concert. Life happens when we're at a concert. We might see a text that brings us a bit down, and maybe the concert will assist us in the healing process. But for sure, in terms of as a multiplier, these are porous, these are non-siloed zones. These are all connected to even the ways that we connect are connected. So to get super, super meta about the whole thing.
Well, and I think what that example brings up for me is when we're connected to ourselves, then there's more room and openness for connection with somebody in the hard, sticky moments when the stakes feel high to have a good time. And, you know, we don't have control over what our partners are saying. And any time is really, you know, free game for having a spat. As we know in any kind of couples work, right, or systems work, they happen at the most inconvenient moments. And it sucks. It takes away from the moment. It takes away from this feeling of wanting to be present, and then how to move through that in a connected way without drawing back from yourself, self-betrayal, and betraying the relationship.
So easy to say, so hard to do. I love what you just shared. I mean, that's just so spot on.
It's so hard to do because when we're upset and we are struggling to regulate and we have to show up for something that we have to put on a good face for, or you're in public.
Right.
Oof. That's
Yeah.
so tough.
And so I am a fan of compartmentalization as a short-term selective strategy, but a lot of people live their lives so compartmentalized that they become calcified over time. And that can make things really tough. If it's the go-to, the sole thing that they do, I think that we can somaticize, we can have colds more frequently, our immune system suffer, our sleep suffers. The body will keep the score, as Bessel van der Kolk will tell us. I was working with a guy who said, I don't know why it is that I'm so constipated when I hang out with my family, but when I go away on vacation and I'm away from my family,
My system
I'm fine.
functions. This is a really good segue into a good part of your work is resiliency. And I don't know if you want to say anything about that.
Yeah.
I have been fascinated with positive psychology ever since it came out. I was so delighted when I learned that while we become so sophisticated at identifying the granular differences between mood disorders and anxiety disorders, we hadn't come up at the time with a really good way to grow more happiness. No one was willing to touch happiness with a 10-foot pole. For every study 100 studies on depression. There was one study on happiness. No one wanted to touch it. It seemed too unquantifiable and unqualifiable. Well, a group of really brilliant psychologists convened and started this movement at really big universities. They researched the hell out of it, and it's maybe the most researched arm in psychology, is what they claim, and I have no reason to disagree, in order to deal with the possible stigma. Okay, so that being said, then it takes us into the place of resiliency. I'm working in the Center for Survivors of Torture for a brief minute, and my what do we call it? My superior, my supervisor says to me, "This work is going to change you. It's not necessarily for the worse, but it will change you." And what I realized was, yeah, vicarious trauma is real. You hear a story, and it can harm you, or you can actually get stronger. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger is incorrect, in spite of Kelly Clarkson and Friedrich Nietzsche and their statement. I believe what doesn't kill you actually might make you a lot weaker. It really depends on your coping strategies.
Yeah.
And so if we can help people cultivate good coping strategies in the face of adversity, we can become much stronger in the face of it. So resiliency is a big deal, and a lot of the positive psychology theories and practices have made a huge difference in this domain. And I apply those to the teams that I work with. So let's say initially I was working with the counterterrorism and child safety teams over at Facebook. And I created a program to help them deal with some of the awful things they were seeing. And what I did was I called it was roughly referred to as dark material and lighter material. The darker material was understanding psychopathy, for example, understanding terrorism. And the lighter material was talking about things like cultivating forgiveness and increasing self-compassion and other positive psychological. So it was really important to have a taxonomy to name what's going on and strategies to help us deal with the hard to deal with. And these days, the world is really hard to deal with. 24/7 news is not helping. When I was a kid, we had news at, whatever time of day for an hour, and we got, a morning paper maybe, and maybe an evening paper if you were really a news junkie. But now it's just bombarding us. And if it bleeds, it leads. And we need these practices more than ever. More importantly, we need each other. We need to have friendships. And friendships, I know, is something that we share in addition to being colleagues. But friendships is what I hear about so often in my office. And it actually led me to my second TEDx talk, which was about friendship and adulthood. Because I saw so many friendable people show up in my office saying, damn, I was born in Ohio, I went to school in New Jersey, and then I did my first job in Texas, and now I'm out here in California. I'm sure you can't relate to any of that, sir, having bounced around the country as you have. And you make friends in each place. And then you leave those friends, and those friends have varying degrees of staying power.
When friendships are geographically undesirable, it's hard to sustain a friendship, just like with a time difference. Let alone somebody who's 30 minutes away. It has to be intentional.
It has to be intentional. And it can be so easy. I often cite the brilliant Stevie Wonder who said, I just call to say I love you. You can still do that with people who live. I've got Jed Goldstein, who is just like one of my favorite human beings on the planet. He has one horrible feature. He lives in New Jersey, and I'm not spreading hate on New Jersey. I love New Jersey. But I don't love the fact that he's 3,000 miles away and we're busy. And he came out to visit with his family last year. And I realized it had been 9 years since I'd seen him. And at this rate, I'll see him 5 more times before I die. And that's not acceptable. So I've made it a point to keep that friendship alive by at least sending voice texts, phone calls, FaceTime, Zooms, and whatever I can do to hang out with him. I even had him on my podcast because he had something amazing to offer. But I'll do anything to stay in touch with the people who matter.
Okay,
in my
so
life.
I have a question about this, and I don't mean to make you the maybe poster child for men and relationships and like sustaining relationships, but in either one of you, this really is for both of you, is men initiating friendships and contact and sustaining relationships across decades is kind of sadly a rarity. Would you say that there's some truth to that?
Women appear, based on the research, to have the upper hand in terms of the numbers of keeping friendships alive. And so many wives are really feeling the burden of being the sole provider of friendship to their husband, and it's just too much. To borrow an idea from Esther Perel, she says that we used to live in villages, and now the spouse becomes the entire village. And we need to find ways to have different people. I call different friends having different superpowers. Like you got the friend who knows how to fix things. You got the friend who is super fun to hang out with at sporting events. But maybe with those two friends, you don't necessarily talk about the emotional stuff. And then you've got the friend with whom you can really talk about the emotional stuff. Like when I met Sir for the very first time, I was like, oh, game on. Like this guy's got depth. like we can go there. And it led to me calling my wife immediately after I met you, saying, "Oh my God, I just met an amazing human being." I have great optimism about the future of this relationship, and that was already 4 years ago. And so
it sounds like you guys really chose each other based on the experience of how you connected to be friends as men. That's in later in life. You're meeting not in college, not in sorry, I'll say that again. Not in college, not in childhood. You are meeting as adults well into your careers. And I think that's really special to be able to express that you like each other.
Yeah. But I think too, after we first met, I also wasn't in a great place emotionally. And so I think that, I remember kind of being MIA.
You were.
Yeah. And then you followed up maybe once or twice after that. And then I was in a different place and had more capacity. And then I responded. And then, it kind of takes, we can talk about maybe methodology of friendship, but after like third, fourth time, then it was just like rhythm. But
that's right.
From the first time to the second time,
exactly,
it might have been like 6 or 8 months or a year because I was not doing that great.
Yeah, you had rocks in your shoe.
Yeah.
And so you were unable at the time, so the timing wasn't quite yet right. But the seedling had been planted. And you know about that form of bamboo that stays, I believe, subterranean for like a few years. And then suddenly it sprouts up really fast.
But I have a question then about this.
Yeah.
And I know this is anecdotal, but I think that it's important. Did you know? Did you see, even if he had rocks in his shoes and he wasn't in a place maybe of cementing the relationship, that you knew right away?
I can't say I knew, because knowing is something.
Or you had a feeling. You had an
intuition.
But
I had a strong sense that a few more clips and there will be more, stronger adhesive to this friendship.
Yeah, because I think like even if we're at a place in our life where I'm just thinking about your comment about somebody who's struggling with depression or struggling with feeling like they don't have the connectiveness and that the social needs met to have this what you write about in your book. And I've read your book and it's so lovely. It's
thanks.
very well written and it's in great read. You can really hear you and your voice through it.
And vulnerable.
Oh, it's fantastic. That even if you're not in that perfect place, that somebody else might be in a place to initiate friendship, even if the snowball effect doesn't happen right away, that there was still traction, and to be patient and to slow it down. Just how we don't have school where we see each other every day. We don't have, maybe commonalities when you're in your own lives and your own businesses, and maybe just the glue is that you live kind of geographically close to each other and you work in adjacent fields. That's not really an excuse to see each other every week right away when you're initiating a friendship or starting a friendship. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Absolutely. And almost as if art was imitating life, one of the ways that our friendship began to grow was you suggesting that we grow something. And that was tomatoes.
Oh, yes. Yes, I forgot. Yes. Yeah.
And so you helped me with my tomato plant. And it was so cool. And you were just like all in. And that's one of the things that guys sometimes need is like a shared activity. Exactly.
Well, isn't there that saying that women relate face to face and men relate side by side?
And there seems to be some anthropological truth to that. Maybe that women, it was said by some, would be face to face with children that they were breastfeeding and as they were breastfeeding or as they were working together. And men would be hunting or, out there, and it was a side by side. So guys sitting down on a baseball bench or guys being on a road trip, they don't have to look at each other's eyes. And I remember actually somebody to whom you're related, my first roommate in college, and I would not be looking at each other, but we'd be in our dorm room with the light out, and we'd say things that we might not say if we were looking at each other. Like, this is what I'm scared of, or, I kind of want to ask this, girl out, but I don't really have the guts, or whatever it might be. And there is something about guys in particular, and women sometimes feel more comfortable doing the side to side too. I mean,
this isn't to general, and I will say, just as maybe a blanket statement, that parents know that you get the best conversations driving in the car with a teenager, no matter if they're, how
gender.
Yeah, no matter their gender. It is sometimes the eye contact or the feeling under the spotlight can feel too much pressure to be vulnerable.
That's right. Almost like, what do they call it? An interrogation. But
when it's just a question about how was your day.
Exactly.
That can be too much.
Even the Boy Scouts use this idea of the rose, of the bud, and the thorn at dinner time. And I love that so much.
Wait, this is crazy because I always do rosebud thorn.
It's the best thing ever,
For
right?
my group, I do rosebud thorn.
It's so genius.
I love it.
It's such a good structure, and kids will eventually do it if the parents do. The rose is something that was good that happened today. The bud was something I learned today, and the thorn is something that hurt today. And it still remains in use even with my children as grown up as they are. We're still stoked to do a rosebud and a thorn, and it really cultivates emotional intelligence. It does all kinds of great things. It provides more glue. And by the way, any opportunity I have to do something with my kids, I will do that with my kids, just about, even if I'm totally disinterested in the thing, just to have a shared experience. One of the things I actually recommend to fathers who have kind of fallen out of touch with their own children because they've become too involved in work, or they just haven't known how to prioritize and haven't found a common denominator, I say go on a quest with your kid. Try to find the best, 4 weeks in a row, hit up 4 ramen shops and rate them. And find the best burger in town, find the best hike in town on all trails, whatever it is, do something. And one of the things that I also got from Pat Love on my podcast, she wrote a book called Hot Monogamy. And I asked her, what's your best tip for keeping things hot? And it wasn't what I expected. She said, do novel things with your spouse. And there is some research that indicates that when we do novel things, people become more attractive. And of course, there's something just eye-opening. It's like hitting the refresh button.
Doing novel things with a spouse is what can, and really just the day-to-day living, making the mundane tasks, spending time with each other, is what can keep that spark.
And some people might say, well, where do I find these novel things to do? They're everywhere. I had a great guest who said that he does things that he's absolutely not interested in once to twice a month because he finds that he might get interested. There are things going on. There is theater nearby. There's Atlas Obscura, which is the funniest website. If you haven't checked it out, it will tell you about weird things that are in any given area. There's, in Moss Beach, the distillery over there, they say there's a blue lady ghost who's been cited by paranormal experts, right? And regardless, it's really cool to go there, and you get to see a new place, and their chowder is amazing. You get to overlook the ocean.
It's so true. I prescribe for working with couples. I say, go play. How can you find play with each other? Go to the arcade. Go gamify something in your life so it's fun. Because life is hard. Life will test you. There's
Definitely.
a lot of hard things. And when you got work and kids and money stress and maybe older parents that are in poor health, or geographically, somebody travels for work and it's just tough, right? Life becomes about doing laundry and dishes and caretaking somebody else other than the relationships that matter most to us.
And if we saw our heartbeats investment in a pie chart, and we saw all the dumb things that we do, including spending way too much time on social media, which gives us literally, I shouldn't say literally nothing, but virtually nothing. In fact, it usually saps us. It usually drains us more than it, fulfills us. I often say, does it feed you or bleed you? And I would say that social media definitely does that. We have time for that, and we're investing our heartbeats in that. And I say, consume less, create more. You're creating right now. Actually, all three of us
So are you.
Yeah, that's right. That's true.
That was my knee-jerk reaction.
Hello. Wait. Hang on a second. I am too. I forgot me. I'm far be it for you. And there's so many other portals to do cool things. One of my other tips: whatever city you live in, there are tourist attractions. I never went to the Winchester Mystery House until I was a grown man in my 40s because it was, quote, too touristy. But go do those things. In fact, go buy a tourism book like Lonely Planet or Moon Publications as if you're traveling out of town about your own city. And go to those places. There are hidden gems. My wife and I have lived in this area for so long. We actually did a Gray Line bus tour of San Francisco with the people from Oklahoma and Germany.
So fun.
And they're like, "Where are you from?" I'm like, "San Jose." They're like, "Why are you on this bus?" And I said, "Because San Francisco is awesome." And I don't know if you've noticed, but there are a lot of planes that seem to land here from other places because it's fantastic. 80% of the things that we heard on the Gray Line bus tour about our own city, in which we have either lived or lived close to, we didn't know.
They were experiencing awe.
They were experiencing awe.
For something they were expecting, and you are getting the awe just because you're actually seeking it out. They think there's an intentionality to being striving for it.
100%.
You just and it organically happens once you put yourself in the opportunity to do it.
Yes. So go.
This actually reminds me too of working with athletes.
Yeah.
And how narrow the focus is, and in many ways has to be in order to compete at a high level. But part of the work too is hey, there's an outside. I know you can't eat this food or you can't spend hours here, but could you go for a run in a park or on a trail or something that's a little bit more beautiful? Or could you go watch a movie and bring your own snacks and a little bag under your jacket that no one's gonna see? Can you have this adventure or still capture life such that it's not just feeling like Groundhog's Day every day? Workout, train, game, workout, train, game.
1,000,000%. I could not agree more with that sentiment. We need to hit the refresh button, add something new to it. It's so crucial. Life is too short. And my gosh, time is such a trippy thing. in some ways things feel long, and in some ways things feel way too fast. But for sure, if we aren't seizing the day, we're missing out. So Robin Williams got it right. Carpe diem. Let's do this. Let's do something different. Let's try something different on the menu. Don't order just autopilot. We need something different. One of the people with whom I work, just getting him out of the routine of ordering what he orders at the same restaurants he usually goes to. Start there. You don't necessarily have to, get to Everest Base Camp next week. I mean, that might be a bit extreme.
Well, maybe you could speak to that though, because I think a lot of people assume that change comes. It's only worth it to try it if you go all in, all out right away. Need to hike the tallest mountain instead of going on a stroll around the block, right? And there's this real all or nothing thinking that I think it's so easy to get trapped into that.
And I get trapped there too. We all have so many.
Totally.
I think there are about 200 known cognitive biases. And one of the things that traps us, by the way, is social comparison. We heard about somebody else doing this, and in order for me to do something epic, I better do something epic. Well, maybe just going on all trails and finding a new hike will be epic in and of itself, and it will. Yeah. It really will, especially if you're open to the idea of it being epic. Adjust your expectations. One of the things that I sometimes do is I think, well, if I don't go to the gym, I'm not going to get a workout. Well, what if I just walked? What if I just moved my body? That will be better than nothing. And sometimes that's the place to start. We all need to just readjust and ask ourselves, what would be moving the ball downfield just a wee bit? I love thinking about life as football. We started the 25-yard line. If we can just make a bit of a gain, it doesn't have to be, like 40 yards. We could just, what if we move the ball 3 yards?
What do you think?
Oh, no comment. I was thinking about.
My mind immediately went to that's not good enough for sir.
No comment. There's
He's
growth.
like that.
There's growth
that's not. No, that's not it.
Yeah, that's an area of growth.
Sir wants to move it got to get a first down every play.
It did make me think about I started taking up bread making last year. And how
that's right. I've had some
like sourdough from the whole thing, and that's been an interesting. There's nothing particularly, I guess, on the face of it about achieving the best sourdough loaf but it has been a very small thing at home that requires a little bit of attention, a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of creativity. And creating some wonder about how water, salt, and flour comes out to make different variations of this bread thing that is delicious and that I give to my friends. And so I kind of found that when I was having a hard time with just going to work every day, and it's raining all the time here in the wintertime, and that's just an example of kind of how that took some shape or action for me.
What does it do for you, the bread making, intrinsically? Irrespective of the extrinsic of how delicious the bread could be, what does the process of making bread do for you, sir?
It's fascinating. It's alive, right? So you have a relationship with it. Not one, I guess, many beings, microbes. It's also responsive, right? So if you are giving it more attention, it functions differently. If you give it less attention, it could die. And then it takes time. I think that's probably the most, for my own psyche, has been the most powerful part of it. You can't just make a loaf of bread in this way in 2 hours. It takes a day, 2 or 3 days, depending on what you're trying to do with it. And so, my interest in gardening, I think, does the same thing, where it just slows me down, and I have to pay attention and be still and wait.
There's not an immediate gratification necessarily.
Yeah.
You get 2 marshmallows.
Spiritually.
For sure.
Emotionally, the marshmallows come in. Oftentimes, I don't even eat much of the, I cut it up and put it in the freezer, and I may have a couple slices throughout the week. But yeah, it's something about that creation and the patience, the forced slowing, which is difficult.
You know, I remember when FedEx seemed like a fast option because they would get something by the next day. Now that we've got emails and texts, we want everything instantaneously. And our brains are oriented towards a more patient process, a slower process, which is obviously not very sexy on the web. We want things that are fast all the time. And our brains are pretty much the same model that they've always been for 30,000 to 70,000 years. Most complex structures in the known universe. And yet, we've had, I think we're at iPhone 17 now. And just in like 17 years, we've had so many different models of iPhones and one brain. And our external realities have changed so much just in the last few decades, let alone last century or two. And what you're doing is you're going back to what the brain was meant to do. And that is to enjoy the delayed gratification, to enjoy the process. Dan Pink talks about the importance of intrinsic versus extrinsic. The intrinsic value of, and the reason I asked you that question is, what do you enjoy about that intrinsically, is that's often even bigger than the extrinsic, like, and then I ate the bread. The goal itself was pretty great, but we also know that we get more dopamine when we're anticipating a thing. And there's an anticipation when you're gardening, there's anticipation when you're baking and kneading and all those things. There was an ad, there will be no wine before it's time. And apparently, one of the reasons that the Jewish people use a prayer over the wine is to honor the fact that there's patience involved. Winemaking, they're not saying, hey, let's all get sloshed. It's more about like honoring.
Juice, right? You don't put it
It's
through
not
and
juice.
Squeeze it and then it's done.
No, it's a long process, and so much of life. And when I was, referencing, for those not familiar with the marshmallow studies, back in the day, there was this Stanford marshmallow study where they would have kids sit in front of a single marshmallow, being told that after waiting a particular period of time, I forget if it was 10 minutes or 30 minutes, and they'd get a second marshmallow, or they could eat that marshmallow now. And the vast majority of the children totaled the marshmallow, telling the experimenter, I don't know what happened to the marshmallow. But the ones who were able to eke it out, there is a suggestion that they had more patience and more prefrontal activity, and it portended fairly well later in life.
Impulse control.
Impulse control.
This being able to think into the future.
That's right.
That foresight.
And I had like none of it in my teens. I remember I had difficulty just making orange juice from like the frozen thing, because I didn't want to have to wait for it to get cold again. Yeah. Just dumb stuff like that. I remember feeling my prefrontal cortex coming online when I was able to delay my gratification for things and realize that processes were important, and the really good, good things really do come to those who wait. But who, I should say, maybe I'd alter that with a blue pen, not a red pen. Say who cultivate and wait.
But you also still have to eat the marshmallows.
You got to eat the marshmallow,
like, because it's not.
That's a really good point.
Or you expire, and so it's not delay gratification for its own sake. You do have to still make a judgment call about when it's time to enjoy.
I've never heard anybody say that, by the way. That
eating the marshmallow is just as important as the impulse control.
That is such an important clinical issue that I see all the time. I see these guys make these butt tons of money, and they're not willing to use it to do the things that they want to do.
Well, and I think that's a really important point. Like, if we are looking at it clinically, enjoying, I think we so often move the goalpost before we even celebrate or enjoy,
100%.
The successes, the wins.
Just being able to be, I love this definition of mindfulness I got from Judson Brewer, of just being aware of what's going on while it's going on, and being able to just really be there for the thing. How many people say that their weddings or important events just flew right by, and they weren't really there for it? They were there for they were focused on the photos and where the flowers go. yeah, but what about connecting with your spouse? What about connecting with your community? What about the dancing and the joy of this, whatever it was that you were doing? Like really be there.
I would argue that that's maybe of all the four types of connection that you write about, that's the one, the relationship with the connection with yourself. If you are somebody that caters to other people's needs and then feels resentment after the fact that you weren't present in the moment for something that you really wanted to be, or sacrificed your own needs because it was more convenient to cater to somebody else, or a circumstance, that there's something to look at.
I love that point, and I call that kind of the consent and resent cycle in certain ways. But I just interviewed Gretchen Rubin. She did the Happiness Project, and she wrote a book about the four tendencies.
That was like my first book about happiness.
No way.
Long ago. Yeah.
Oh, she's awesome.
Before I was even in mental health, I was like, oh, maybe I should think about something more than getting into medical school, the best medical school I can, anyway.
Exactly, yeah. And she's made a massive splash. And one of them is the four tendencies. She talks about how we respond to expectation. And the vast majority of us, and I love non-pathologizing personality typologies that actually make sense in the world and have some validity, of course. But one of the types that she describes is the obliger. I'm not going to get all up in the four types, but there's a rebel, there's a questioner, there's an obliger, and an upholder. And the obligers, most of us are obligers. Most of us won't do something for ourselves, but we'll do it for other people. And then sometimes we end up resenting those other people, just as you said, Kayla. So, like that is a cycle.
Ask for it to be done.
Exactly. Right. We imagine, well, they would have wanted it. It's like, did you verify? Maybe they didn't.
Oh, I did want to bounce back to friendship.
Yes.
And tier 2, and what, like for the listener who's an adult, maybe moved to a new place, is not living where they grew up or where they went to school, doesn't have contextual relationships. What would be the key steps for forming a new relationship when they come across people that they like?
Absolutely. Follow up. So there are so many ways to peel that idea, but one of them would be follow up. If you're interested, follow up. Now, you may find out that the person who you thought you really liked, you find out there's actually not a connection, or something is off.
Or they don't have capacity.
Right, or they don't have capacity. Sometimes things pretend very well initially, and they kind of taper off for this, that, or the other reason. Maybe they claim to be, really strong family people, and you find out they are anything but. And we become the average of the 5 people with whom we spend the most time. So we do want to be with people who reflect who we want to be on some level, because we get those earworms. The second thing I would recommend doing is be the initiator. Nina Badzin, who was on my podcast, and she talks about friendship and adulthood a lot, and that's the topic of her podcast in general, says be the initiator. Don't expect them to initiate. And I think that's so spot on. Take control of that. Don't just be sitting up in a tower and trying to let down your hair and hope that somebody will save you from it. Let's see, what else would I recommend? I'd recommend also being willing to meet people in various domains, preferably things that you're already interested in. Going out, and you didn't exactly ask it, but I'm going to answer this anyway. Go out and do stuff that you like. Worst case scenario, you'll do something cool. Best case scenario, do something cool. And you also get some information, as in digits, from someone who could be a friend. Our romantic relationships will do so much better if our lives have more good friends. One of the reasons I actually chose my wife, by the way, was I met her friends. And I realized that if things ever went south in any way, shape, or form, her advisory board were good people. They were smart people. They wouldn't be like, reductive and like, it's typical guy stuff. Leave the guy. I knew that they would give her wise counsel. And I also liked that they were as she described them. Like she didn't magnify anybody or shrink anybody. They were all like, oh yeah, those are the people that she described like spot on, and they're good. And so that was a really big deal. But we need to have a nice advisory board around us for different things. I mentioned earlier, the more people we know, the luckier we become. Those friends will make you lucky as well. Obviously, you're not looking for that, but they will tell you about an idea that allows you to sleep better. They will tell you about an idea that gets you closer with your spouse, something that they did. So it's better than any social media is being social.
Do you think that the fear of rejection and doing something, putting yourself out there, taking a cooking class, doing something alone, I mean, gosh, finding a male friend as a man, that's just, you're looking for a platonic male friend and you're asking to exchange number. I mean, that's vulnerable.
Definitely. If I could go back in time and whisper something to my high school aged self, it would be tolerate rejection, because without it, you're not going to be playing the game. I was so terrified of rejection, and we are biologically directed to be terrified of rejection, because rejection used to mean, when we lived in tribes, certain death. So if you look at the neuroimage of someone experiencing physiological pain versus someone experiencing rejection, the same pain centers are activated. So rejection really hurts.
It's real.
It's real, and yet if we aren't willing to tolerate it, right, we gotta build up that rejection tolerance, and maybe make it funny. Thank you, Judd Apatow, for giving us the likes of Seth Rogen and people like Paul Rudd. Watching them strike out is so much fun, because it really allows us to realize, oh, it's part of the thing of life. Kristen Wiig did it so well in Bridesmaids, and I remember watching Ally McBeal back in the day in the 90s. I don't know if you remember this TV show. Ally McBeal's great.
What's that one movie with Jason Segel and
that's the one I was thinking
Paul
of as well.
Rudd.
I Love You, Man.
I Love You, Man. Oh, that movie still holds so much resonance.
So good.
Yeah.
So good, and easily one of my all-time faves. Like so much vulnerability, so much sweetness, and the willingness to tolerate rejection is going to be commensurate, I believe, with the quality of life that we all live. So if we can all find a way to make it funny when we get rejected, like, wow, I really whiffed on that one, or boy, I really misjudged that. Finding a way to just soften the pain, which definitely will show if you can make it funny.
It's like, I don't know, I think one of the reasons why rejection is so painful is because it's a reflection of what you might actually think about yourself. And so if we can like ourselves a little bit more and know that we're great and that we're worthy of being somebody's friend or spouse and chosen, and that maybe it's not personal, maybe it is. And if it is, reconciling in our own selves that we don't have to take on the beliefs of what somebody else's negative thought about us is.
And they're usually wrong, even with people.
It's not personal,
it's not,
right? It's
100% not personal.
Yeah.
But as well as we think we can read people, it turns out that when we try to read our significant other's mind, we're right about 40% of the time. There's actually, even with those folks with whom we're most close. So we have no idea why we were rejected. Maybe that person's having a bad day. Maybe that person just doesn't like guys. Who knows? To your point, it may not be personal at all. It probably isn't.
Maybe it is.
And maybe it is. And if it is, I would still rather go down. Everybody knows they'd rather go down swinging than looking. To use a baseball metaphor, I've never asked somebody in my office, would you rather go down swinging or looking? No one has ever said looking. No one.
You don't want to choose the path of not trying.
Gotta try.
But in hindsight, in the moment, it's really hard.
When I was in high school, there was a type of bully, and I swear to you, this is what they'd say. Oh, he's trying.
Yes.
As if that's a bad thing.
That's still a thing.
It's still a thing.
Still
He's
a
trying,
thing.
or she's trying.
When somebody's trying too hard.
Really? That's still in.
absolutely. I think now more than ever, because everything is posted
Oh,
online.
they're thirsty or
Yes.
whatever it might be.
Or like, yeah, there's a lot of slang
Tries
language
too
around
hard.
that.
Okay, yeah, and I say try hard. Leslie Knope this thing. Like, go try.
Yeah. I like your point too about like that the friendship, like that outer circle too. Like there's the friendship circle and then there's the community. And we haven't talked about those two, like inner, yeah.
Right.
So that next one is the larger community. And you're still influenced and made up. There is connection with your surroundings.
Yeah, for sure.
Even if it's not your best friend that you're calling up.
So you're talking about like one of my favorite things, and that is we do need community. Barbra Streisand kind of got it partially wrong when she said people who need people are the luckiest people in the world. We all need people. I don't care who you are. As my colleague and friend Britt Frank will tell you, she's a therapist in the Midwest, we have different feeding schedules. Some of us feed like hummingbirds. We need to see our friends like as frequently as hummingbirds feed. But according to her, scorpions have a feeding, and we're not talking about the poison nature of scorpions, but apparently scorpions eat very infrequently, like once a month. And some people need that frequency, and that's fine. Know your frequency.
But it's not starvation.
It's not starvation. They do just fine.
No. I mean, like, you still need something.
We
like
still
if
need.
It's been 6 months. I would argue that maybe you're starving.
I would say that for most people, yeah, that would be the dietary. That would not meet the dietary requirements even of a scorpion. So yeah, I mean, know how frequent. But as far as community goes, we do need communities. I need to know who my neighbors are because they'll look out for me when things go badly. They'll tell me when I've left my door open and my light's still on and I won't have battery in the morning or worse. And we'll also help each other out. We need people. And I found that the best way to create community is frankly to have a dog. There is, you walk your dog and you meet people because
Getting out of the house.
Getting out of the house.
Getting out of the house.
So many good things happen when you walk your dog, including the cardio, including the photons we get from the sunlight, including the biophilia we get from being around trees. But then we also get the social elements. We meet people. When when both of my dogs died, one of the things I did was I wrote down the names of all the people they introduced me to. In this science of there was this study that basically suggested that people are far more likely to approach you if you have a dog than if you don't have a dog.
Yeah,
so if I'm just some rando walking through the neighborhood, people aren't going to be talking to me so much. But if I've got a cute dog, they'll say, "Hey, great dog." And I'll say, "Fantastic. Let's find out who we are." And lo and behold, who did my dogs introduce me to? They introduced me to other dog sitters, babysitters, my first TEDx talk. They introduced me to somebody I hadn't seen since high school, somebody I hadn't seen since nursery school, and so many other people. So if it's at all viable, get a dog if you want more community, but do so only, of course, if you really love dogs. If you don't love dogs, I say it's strongly discouraged.
If you don't love dogs, just get out of the house and go for a walk and say hi to people.
And I do that as well. Now that my dog has died, I'm still willing to say hey to people that I don't know, and it does. And one of the ways that I found as an in is to say, hey, let's connect on LinkedIn, because in my neighborhood we have a lot of people in the industry, and that's a very safe way to connect. And sometimes it leads to friendship.
It moves into the inner circle.
Sometimes, and sometimes maybe kind of a further away tier of friend but at least friendly friend.
Yeah, it seems like and part of this putting yourself out there can be maybe a little bit more safe if it's in a context of community. So the community might be, like for me, maybe volunteering in a community garden might be that way. So it's not like necessarily those relationships are deep, but they know me, I know them. If I'm not showing up, maybe they call and say, "Are you okay?" I wonder, are there or ways that you've seen with your patients or your clients where they've been able to tap into that tier 3 community that wasn't.
You nailed it, by the way. Just in the question itself, volunteerism is not only been shown to reduce depression and anxiety, but it's one of the quickest ways to make friends. It's how we adults play. I made a lot of friends by being a volunteer on a board. I know a lot of people who do similar stuff, like the local community garden, whatever it might be. That is how we get to know people over time. And usually we don't become instant best friends. Most of the time it takes time and multiple contacts in multiple contexts. And volunteerism may be one of the best things, one of the most, good selfish things we can do, because we're actually being selfless as we're really doing something that is so self-preservational.
Yeah. And even if, volunteering isn't, I think about like board game meetups or pick up basketball.
Chess.
Or, yeah.
Chess club.
Just
join a club.
Yeah. A hobby, even if it's not necessarily sliding into tier 4 about greater meaning or spirituality, can solidly be tier 3 and fun, but having a community where you play pickup sports, you may not ever talk to them about, your childhood trauma, but you can go play basketball and there's a feeling there that gets satisfied.
Well, so interesting. You're looking at this, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're looking at the spiritual in the interpersonal. Just being with either of you means that the two of us together, or the three of us together in this case, are greater than me alone.
So well said.
Yes. Something miraculous just about us being in this room right now. And 2 years, 3-4 years, I lived in a different place. We never knew this moment would happen.
Never knew. And I'm going to bring in Chip Connolly for a second. He runs this thing called Modern Elder Academy, and he's this amazing human being who talks about the importance of having friendships with people who are at least 10 years older than you and at least 10 years younger than you. You are more than 10 years younger than I am, as are you. And it's so crucial to have a nice, diversified portfolio of friends from different age groups, because like I mentioned, what did I mention just a second ago? I think I mentioned something from the nice Ally McBeal, and I could see who's that? And maybe you'll check it out as a result. Callista Flockhart was, really a pioneer in female comedy, and just nailed it, and also showed how a beautiful woman could still be rejected, and how she would tolerate that, and she served as a role model for me. But having friends who are older than I am and younger than I am and at the same age, having a broad variety increases the way I think flexibly. I mean, we think about cognitive flexibility as being really directly related to how healthy we are. And you might say something that causes me to think a little differently. And I love that.
It's expansive. I think that's where you, on your platform and talking about connectedness and platforming other people, really allows you to absorb and then integrate that in your own life and as a clinician. And it's like the best of, I can just really tell that you do it. It's the best of humanity. I can tell that you do it from such a heart-centered place.
I really do. And the reason I called it SuperPsyched is not just because my nickname is EnthusiAdam, but because I wanted people who got me really excited about life. And it's my hope, both with the book, which is also called SuperPsyched, is it's not about just being happy all the time or toxic, positivity. Oh God, that's so dangerous. If you've ever seen Parks and Recreation, just look at poor Chris Traeger. He does not, played by Rob Lopes brilliantly. It doesn't go well if you're trying to put on a happy face all the time. It's not good.
It's not about that.
It's not about that. It's about being super connected to our psyches, really dialing into whatever is going on.
Yeah. What's next for you?
Well, I am thinking in terms of professionally, I would say probably I'm going to be interviewing my own mom on an upcoming podcast, which will be very interesting, cultivating the wisdom from her. I've got more book-related stuff, which is always fun, whether it's going out and meet and greet or presentations. Personally, trying to solve where my wife and I will go for our couples vacation every summer. One of the ways that I was unequivocal about marrying Oriane was we traveled together so ridiculously well that I was just like, if I don't marry this woman, I'm the world's biggest idiot. And I can say 23 years later, yeah, I'm stoked. I chose well. It wasn't just on the travel. It was a host of things. I've even talked about our friends. But yes, figuring out where the four of us are going to go. So that's really fun. A fun little puzzle. It's going to require, logistics, figuring out when we're all at the same place at the same time. And so that I've got going on. And just staying open to new information that will serve me and serve the people I serve and the people I love. I love generating information that will help people live better.
Your book is a ripple effect, and you're a ripple effect.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
I really appreciate that, Kayla.
Yeah.
I feel so appreciated and seen by you.
I'm so glad that we got to have you on today.
Yeah,
This is
same.
such a privilege.
Do you want to hold up your...
Oh, sure. Here's the book. Yeah. The cover was like...
Super psyched.
Kind of, I'm probably putting it from my face, but it was interestingly, this was, of course, everything about this book got weigh-ins from the people I love and care about. And so I'm so grateful to everyone who helped me put this thing out into the world.
Is there a story about the cover?
Yeah, just in terms of my son, really, even my older son really weighed in hard on the cover, and he's just got some visual strengths that I do not have.
I love it.
I can't imagine there's something harder than picking your book cover.
That was the title was really
easy,
really painful. There's so many titles that, every author will tell you, there's just about the amazing titles that they didn't choose.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even picking a name for a podcast is hard.
Isn't it?
So hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And social comparison can cause us to diminish our own choices. So it's like,
or get stuck.
Or it gets stuck.
And then when you land on something and it just feels right, you're like, yeah.
It's a knowing, right?
It's a knowing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Where
much.
can people find you?
People can find me at DrAdamDorsay.com. That's DrAdamDorsay.com. I'm easily searchable on Google, and all kinds of stuff will be shown about how to find me, and I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we'll put your links in. You're on Instagram too.
Barely. I've got a really strong presence on LinkedIn and Facebook, and my Instagram could use a little love, let's just say, but it's there.
Yeah. It's in process.
It's in process. I was a little late to the game. My son's brilliant advice to me was, Dad, just use it. And it's like, thanks, that's really helpful.
All right, well, thanks for listening in.
Yeah, subscribe to all the things. Thanks for joining Mind Meets Medicine.
Loved being with you, Kayla and Sir.
Absolute privilege for me.
Yeah. You'll be back on?
Hell yes.
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah.
I'm a text away.
Thanks.
All right, see you next time.
Bye.
All right, my friends.